There are some secrets families bury together, not because they're ashamed, but because if anyone ever said the truth out loud, everything would collapse. And sometimes, the most terrifying part isn't the secret itself. It's the moment someone decides to stop pretending. This story begins with a simple dinner, but by the end of the night, 4 people will realize that love can become something far darker than hate. Every Sunday, the Calloway family had dinner together. Same house, same table, same ritual. The kind of a tradition people envy. Arthur Calloway sat at the head of the table like he always had. 70 years old, quiet, disciplined. The kind of man who believed emotions were weaknesses you kept private. Across from him sat his wife, Helen. Helen had the kind of smile that made strangers trust her instantly. But tonight, she wasn't smiling. Their daughter, Lila, scrolled through her phone while pretending to listen to the conversation. Next to her sat her younger brother, Daniel. Daniel hadn't spoken much since he arrived, and at the end of the table sat someone who hadn't been there in years. Marcus, Arthur's eldest son, the one who left, the one nobody talked about, the one who suddenly decided to come back. Marcus hadn't been home in 8 years. No holidays, no birthdays, no calls. He simply disappeared until 3 weeks ago when Helen received a message. I think it's time we talked. Arthur didn't ask questions. He simply said, Sunday dinner. And now Marcus sat there quietly, studying each face at the table like someone assembling a puzzle. He looked older, tired, but there was something else in his expression, something calm, something that made Lila uneasy, because Marcus wasn't angry. He looked prepared. Dinner started normally. Weather, work, neighbors. Arthur told a story about a broken fence. Helen asked about Marcus's job. Marcus answered politely, but every now and then, he looked at Daniel. Daniel avoided eye contact. His hands trembled slightly when he reached for his drink, and Lila noticed something strange. Marcus wasn't eating. He was waiting. Finally, Helen asked the question everyone was avoiding. So, why did you come back? Marcus wiped his mouth slowly. Then he said something that instantly froze the room. I thought it was time we talked about what happened. Arthur's fork stopped in midair. Lila felt her stomach drop. Daniel looked like he might throw up. And Helen whispered, Marcus, please. But Marcus shook his head. No, we promised we'd never talk about it. He paused. But that promise is the problem. 80 years ago, something happened in this house. Something nobody reported. Something nobody explained. Something they all agreed to erase. Marcus looked at each of them slowly. You remember the night? Nobody answered. So Marcus continued. Mom said it was an accident. He turned toward Arthur. You said it was already over. Then he looked at Daniel. And you? Daniel's voice cracked. Stop. Marcus didn't stop. You said you didn't mean to. Lila's heart started pounding because she realized something horrifying. She remembered that night, just fragments. A loud argument, glass breaking, someone crying, and then silence. Marcus leaned forward. You all convinced yourselves it was the right thing. Arthur's voice was cold. Marcus, enough. But Marcus smiled. No, that's the interesting part. He looked at Lila. You were only 16. They told you it was better not to know. Helen whispered, please stop. Marcus ignored her. You remember the neighbor, right? Lila blinked. Mr. Calder, the old man next door, the one who suddenly moved away. Or at least, that's what they told her. Marcus's voice dropped to a whisper. He didn't move. Daniel started shaking. Arthur slammed his hand on the table. That's enough, but Marcus said the words anyway. He died in this house. The room went silent. Lila stared at her parents. Helen was crying now. Arthur's jaw was clenched. Daniel looked like he might collapse. Marcus continued calmly. You told yourselves it was self-defense, Arthur whispered. It was. Marcus tilted his head. Was it? Daniel suddenly shouted. He attacked Mom. Marcus looked at him. Did he? No one spoke. Marcus leaned back in his chair. Because I remember something different. Marcus's voice became quiet. Mr. Calder didn't attack anyone. Arthur's breathing grew heavy. He threatened us. Marcus shook his head. No. Then, he said, the one thing that destroyed the entire story. He threatened to call the police. Lila's voice trembled. Why? Marcus looked straight at Arthur and said, because Dad was already hurting Mom. The silence that followed felt suffocating. Helen started sobbing. Daniel covered his face. Arthur stood up slowly. You don't know what you're talking about. Marcus looked directly into his eyes. I watched you push him down the stairs. Arthur didn't deny it. Not immediately. Instead, he asked one quiet question. Why now? Marcus answered, calmly. Because we all became complicit. He gestured around the table. Mom lied to the police. Daniel helped move the body. Lila believed the story. And I? He paused. I buried him. Lila felt like the room was spinning. Marcus looked at her gently. That's the real secret. It wasn't one monster. It was all of us. Arthur finally spoke. His voice was tired. So what now? Marcus reached into his bag and placed something on the table. A recorder. The red light was blinking. I think it's time the truth stops belonging to just this family. Helen whispered, You recorded everything? Marcus nodded. Then he said the final sentence. The police are already listening. The Calloway family always had Sunday dinner. They believed silence would protect them. But secrets don't disappear. They just wait for someone brave enough or cruel enough to tell the truth. So here's the real question. If you had been sitting at that table, would you protect your family or expose them? Because sometimes the worst thing you can do to the people you love is tell the truth.